Now let's head into the papers now, see what the headlines across Nigerian newspapers are this morning. And we have with me our analyst in the studio, Obani Akinwale. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Pleasure being here.
We also have Olori Janet Mbafolabi, a publisher, Scroll Magazine, joining us on Skype. Olori, good morning. It's good to see you join us right now. Okay. All right, let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust says, Onoyeko, Jega, Agwai, Bugaje, others to Buhari, only dialogue can solve Nigeria's problems or solve Nigeria's challenges. Only dialogue can solve Nigeria's challenges, and advised Council of State Governors Forum to lead discourse and urged President to sack service chiefs. Issues can be resolved at National Assembly. The presidency is saying that. Okay, that's Daily Trust newspaper. Business AM is next. Business AM says external reserves down $11 billion in 10 months. Headache defying all remedies. This headache is defying all remedies. That is what Business AM is saying on the external reserves. The Blueprint newspaper is next now. And it says, after doctors' 9 billion naira added allowance, health workers begin warning strike today, accuse federal government of not honoring agreement. Okay, this will form part of our discussion shortly as we open the discussion in just about a minute. Okay, from the Blueprint, let's go to Daily Times. Buhari influenced by Jonathan's style on chief of staff, others. That's what Daily Times has there. Business Day is next. Business Day says that Nigeria's genomic capacity for drug production grows on major investments. Okay, Nigeria's genomic capacity for drug production grows on major investments. That's Business Day. From there, let's go to NewsDirect. NewsDirect says presidency attacks Obasanjo, describes him as Nigeria's divider in chief. Presidency attacks Obasanjo, describes him as Nigeria's divider-in-chief. Says Buhari prevented Nigeria from becoming a failed state. Okay, that's a story on the front page of the NewsDirect. Let's go to the national economy now. National economy is talking about trade facilitation. Shippers Council woos investors to inland dry ports project. Says IDP is cost-effective for importers, and truck transit parks can create jobs. Sabelo is saying this. Okay, that's the national economy. Leadership newspaper is the next one now, and the last one we're looking at. It says patients groan as strike grounds activities in hospitals. Industrial action illegal. That's by the federal government. And we'll resume work if our demands are met. Health workers are replying back on this, and it's a back and forth between the union and the government. And this is what we will be talking about as we open discussions now. The Blueprint newspaper also has it. It says after doctors' 9 billion naira added allowance, health workers begin warning strike today. And that is what is troubling a lot of patients in hospitals. Nee, let me start with you on this one. The point there is negotiations are ongoing from the report we got, and the Minister of Labour and Productivity, Dr. Chris Ngige, had said that some of the demands were met and they were on the process of meeting others. And we also learned that some monies have been transferred to them. So going on an industrial action right now, a warning strike now, I wonder what you make of it.
Let me say good morning once again, and it's so unfortunate that we find ourselves in this situation as a country. First of all, we have a health system that is not working. Now have health personnel that refuse to work. So it's so a shame to us as a nation. But I was watching one of the gubernatorial debate yesterday, and I could hear one of the candidates echo that they are planning to put in place 192 health facilities in the world in that state. And I recall vividly that a couple of years back, the current governor of Osun State, Governor Utola, is trying to put in 328 medical facilities in the state of Osun. Now, what I'm trying to lay that foundation is that it shows clearly that there seems to be nothing in terms of health facility we could all see how COVID came and how we were almost overwhelmed. We only have 4 centers that could test COVID, incremental to 62, which shows that the health system in this country is next to nothing. I will tell you, 90% of Nigerians actually go to whether about medicine or go to private hospitals. But notwithstanding, do we also have qualified medical personnel, or do we have enough medical personnel is a question. But most time, I'm also afraid that most of the agitations of our workers in Nigeria is for the condition of standard condition of working, not even ensuring that the service is delivered. I have said it here several times. I said it's only in Nigeria that you pay for roadworthiness when the road is not carworthy. Okay. So the medical officers, as much as we empathize or sympathize with them as regards their condition, also needs to give Nigeria opportunity to shout to government, to ensure that government do what is needful. But right. I will tell you, our general hospitals are not to about in terms of service delivery, and that's also a source of concern. All right,
we'll come back to this. Let me bring in Olori Janet Mbafolabi to discuss this, to put in her insight into this. Now, the point there is the issue with between the federal government and health workers has been on for so many years now, and one would say that one wonders why it is very challenging that when agreements are signed by the federal government and these unions, sometimes it becomes difficult to implement.
Most of the time, those agreements are not implemented. But in this particular case, they held a meeting on the 10th of September, and a memorandum was signed, and the workers promised that they will come back on the 12th to meet again. And then there's another meeting that's supposed to take place on the 15th of September. But curiously, the workers are now going on warning strike. I thought that they would have waited for the meeting of the 15th and see if the government will do something about their demands or not, instead of going on this strike ahead of the September 15 meeting. They said they met yesterday, both physically and online, and they all agreed that nothing concrete will be achieved if they met with government. I think that is too preemptive. They should have waited and done the meeting, and then if nothing concrete comes up, then they could go on the warning strike, because at the end of the day, it is the patients that are suffering. They are not only suffering, they are not only groaning, they are dying. The patients are now like the grass that is suffering when 2 elephants are fighting. They should consider the public interest in this matter. I understand their own feelings. I understand that they also need money, because part of their demand is that they want the allowances that were promised them for the COVID-19 hazard something allowances, and that instead of the 5,000 that was given to them before now, that they want 50% of their basic salary to be converted to those allowances. So it may take some time. So they should consider these patients and also wait for September 15 before they could go on a strike like this, if the government does not do anything.
Okay. All right, Nee, I wonder what scenarios you see going forward. Would it likely that the government might call them to say, okay, let us give you this and let us give you that in that regard? Or what do you foresee?
I don't think the Johesu has looked at the body language of this current government. You recall vividly a couple of days ago, the National Association of Resident Doctors also want to go on strike before they came back apologizing to the Minister for Labour. And what the minister has told them is that hospitals call the National Youth Service Corps members to be doing what NRD is doing. And they have also proposed to review the law of residency as regards in medical doctors. You recollect just a couple of days ago, the General of Federation was accused of reviewing the laws that allows people to use MBA stamp rules in terms of presenting their case to court. So Johesu needs to be very, very careful with this government. I am afraid they will be shocked tomorrow that there will already be a bill in the National Assembly that says they liberalize unionism. That is one. Two, I think, again, Johesu needs to look inward and look at, during the COVID lockdown for 4 months, what is the service delivery? Who are the people involved? Yes, there are genuine interests, there are genuine requests by those people that are putting their life at the risk. But what amount of hospitals are available? What is the mortality rate? What service will people get over that period? So if the system can stay 80% system shut down over 4 periods, will government be willing to dispense with their services? So as much as their agenda is important, I'm thinking, like she said, they are taking the wrong time to fight the battle.
Okay.
Government just increased electricity tariff, they increased fuel tariff, labor union is saying they are considering that, Nancy is doing this. So if they also want to join, I am not sure whether this government will see them as a serious threat to whatever they have in mind.
All right, let's head straight to the papers, and I begin with the Daily Trust. Onayekan Jega, Agwai, Bugaje, others to Buhari, only dialogue can solve Nigeria's challenges. Advised Council of State, Governors Forum to lead this cause. Urged President to sack service chiefs. Issues can be resolved at National Assembly Presidency. We'll look at that story shortly. To the front page of the Business AM, external reserves down $11 billion in 10 months, headache defying all remedies. To the front page of the Blueprint, after doctors' 9 billion naira added allowance, health workers begin warning strike today. To the front page of the Daily Times, Buhari influenced by Jonathan's style of on Chief of Staff, others. Business Day, Nigeria's genomic capacity for drug production grows on major investments. And on the front page of the NewsDirect, Presidency attacks Obasanjo, describes him as Nigeria's divider-in-chief, says Buhari prevented Nigeria from becoming a failed state. And on the front page of the National Economy, trade facilitation, Shippers Council woos investors to inland dry ports project, says IDP is cost-effective for importers. Truck transit packs can create jobs. Bello. And finally, on the front page of the Leadership newspaper, patients groan as strike grounds activities in hospitals. Industrial action illegal. Federal government will resume work if our demands are met. Health workers speaking there. All right, we'll go to the front page of the Daily Trust, talking about some leaders of thought. Onayekan Jega, Agwai, Bugaje, others saying to the president that only dialogue can solve Nigeria's challenges, especially with regards to COVID-19 and issues bordering on insecurity. I'll start with you, Janet. I wonder, we've had discussions in this country, not once, not twice. Is the dialogue the way to go? Because these leaders of thoughts are asking, advising rather, Council of State and Governors Forum to lead this conversation. Janet, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Right, I can hear you now. I was asking that we've had several discussions across in the country with regards to issues bothering us. I wonder, with this recommendation, talking about leaders of thoughts asking the Council of State and also Governors Forum to lead a conversation around issues bordering on insecurity and COVID-19's impact on us as a nation. Is that the way to go?
Veronica, you know, dialogue is not a new option. It is not a new action either. We have had several dialogues. So for them to call on the government to arrange another dialogue or to say dialogue is a way to go about the problems of this country, I agree with them that dialogue is a way to go. However, for whose benefit is this dialogue going to be? And for whose interest is the dialogue going to be? We have had series of dialogue. We have spent government money on so many dialogues, which did not see the recommendation, did not see the light of the day. So until we begin to ask this question, for whose benefit is this? If it's for public interest, then there will be no problem. But if it's for deep vested interest of individuals or groups, we will continue to have dialogues on ending dialogues till eternity. Because some people are only interested in dialogue because they want to divert, they want to loot, they want to embezzle, and they want to take advantage of dialogue to bring in their own selfish interest. The leaders of thoughts have spoken, and a lot of Nigerians believe in what they have said, that there should be dialogue. but let's do it rightly. Let it be devoid of selfish interest. Let it be purely for public interest so that we can achieve the purpose for which the dialogue...
Are you saying, if I may interrupt your line of thought, are you saying that the initial dialogues we have held as a country were not in the interest of the citizens?
It was for public interest, but at the end of the day, you see that somehow it did not benefit the public, because you now saw a situation where those dialogues were for some people's benefit. So that's why I'm asking the question, for whose benefit? Ordinarily, the dialogue is supposed to be for public interest, for the interest of the average Nigerian citizen. However, the intention of those who either organize it or who are members turn out to be that they are not there to represent public interest.
All right, let's bring the conversation to the studio now, Obani. A conversation, is that what we need at this point? And like Janet is saying, if it's in the public interest, then it's fine.
I have a contrary view to what our elder statesman, Cardinal Ndonoyekon, has said. And my point of view will come from, like, the last statement you made. You said, what happens to our previous conversation? And I don't see any reason for us to have any conversation, because whatever government intend doing in this country, whether the citizens agree or they disagree, government will implement. It's government. It is the array or the sitting down of people that makes decisions and opinions.
But that's not what democracy is about.
Democracy is about that, because you have already elected people to either the lower chamber or the higher chamber of the National Assembly, and they are representative of people. So you ask yourself, at every strata of government, you have the local government chairman, you have the councillors, you have the Senate of Assembly, you have the governor, you have the Federal House of Representatives, the Senate chamber, and you have the National Assembly. What is it? It's a constituent assembly. And what does the constituent assembly represent? It represents the interests of people, whether by senatorial distribution, by geographical distribution, by their clans or whatever. So at the moment, we already have a deliberation. So the question now is that those people that are representing our interests, because if you are calling for dialogue, as it may be, somebody will go and represent you and I. Not everybody will be there. And at the moment, we have our 469 people representing all of us. So that is one. Two, like, you know, in 2014, when President Jonathan created a national conference, the current ruling party refused to join the conference. Now you ask yourself, President Jonathan was able to implement certain reports at the end of the conference, but some were not implemented. So what happened to that? What happened to the Monaco conference? What happened to conferences from 1979 to today? What happened to bills at the National Assembly to today? So for me, us sitting down again, and we have a lot of conferences happening. Nigerian Governors Forum have what they call peer review mechanism. Speakers of House of Assembly have what they call Speakers of House of Assembly review mechanism. They have all local government chairmans association. These are various forums where decisions are being making, where people are trying to exchange notes, and they so for me.
For them, it seems all of the decisions being made are not, the benefits are not trickling down to the people.
It's not about what I see so far is that we always meet. But the question is that, do we have any tangible result outside our meeting? So what I'm saying is that all the documents that we already have a meeting assembly, which is a National Assembly, House of Rep, and House of Assembly. Their job is to look at what is happening, do review mechanism, and recommend for the executive to implement. Then again, the executive have had various reports, 2014 Jonathan Conference, Pronaco Conference, 1979, Obasanjo did his own. There are a lot of community conferences, there are a lot of governors' forum meetings. These are meetings upon meetings that ends with nothing. So what I will say is that we don't need meetings again. What we need now is action. All of us have agreed that people have represented us in 2014 with millions of naira wasted. Yes, it is worth it. But now we don't need to sit down again and start deliberating on what nobody seems to have the balls to implement. So what we need to do now is that the report we have already, let the National Assembly, which originally were elected by people, to speak for people, to review for people, to implement for people, to recommend for people, to serve as check and balance for the executive, do the needful and pass these bills. The documents are there. So sitting down again, are we going to ask again that, oh, do we devolve power? Do we put Yoruba language in the national language? Is it a secular state or a religious state? We have all those solutions already
what
in
their
all
focus
conferences.
is this time is on the insecurity and the pandemic.
So
that's their
there is
focus.
something different because the insecurity has been catered for. If we devolve power, the system manage their security. If the policing is local, that will be sorted out. If the federal government does not concern himself with what is happening in terms of security at a local government in Lagos, if Lagos is able to handle that, if chairman of local government is able to handle his own security, his own electricity, his own water, if everything is devolved, the evolution of power is already there. Let the Nigerian constitution and let the constitution work for all of us.
Your final thoughts, Janet, before we let you go.
Okay, if the analyst is saying that we have people representing and the people there, so why are we still having problems if truly we have people representing the masses and public interest? I am in favor of dialogue. I'm saying that the National Assembly, some of the members may be representing their people, but they are not representing their voices. Some of the people in nationals have not been home for a very long time. They don't have a first-hand information of what is going on in their communities. They are not on ground in their communities to know what is happening. So they need people from those communities to come and have an input in the conversation or the dialogue. That is the solution.
All right, Olori Janet Mbafolabi, thank you so much for your time on the program this morning. Thank you, Obani Akinwale, for your time as well.